Okay, so I was just watching some videos on YouTube about bandsaws and blades and stuff, and I gotta be honest with you, there's not a lot of really good content there. So I thought I would take just a quick moment here to talk about bandsaw blades and bandsaws and how to tune them to the appropriate blade. Now there's three different kinds of bandsaw blades. There's a bimetal blade, a flexback blade, and a hardback blade. We're gonna focus on flexback blades and hardback blades today because those are the two kind of blades that you typically use in woodworking. The difference between a hardback and a flexback is really simple. A hardback is for making really aggressive, fast, straight cuts. So if you're gonna do some resawing or you're gonna do some ripping, the hardback is the way to go. Now you can do contours with the hardback blade, and that's typically what I leave in my saw. I very rarely do contours much under 3 or 4 inches in diameter, and you can get away with a hardback blade in that case. Now if you're gonna do a lot of contours and you want a nice smooth cut, flexback blade's definitely the way to go. So that's the difference between the two. Hardback, fast ripping, and flexback is for making those nice contours and really sharp turns. So let's talk about those two blades, and let's talk about how to tune your bandsaw for each one of those blades. Now this bandsaw is a very old, beat up Rockwell Delta bandsaw. I bought it for $75 off of Craigslist. It's beat up, it's worn out, the motor's kind of underpowered for what this is, but with a quality blade in this, you can still get it to perform pretty well. Now I've got a piece of figured maple here. This is pretty hard, dense material that I use to do some demonstrations on. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a rip cut with this just to show you how fast a hardback blade can eat through some material. So hardback blades can really eat through some stock. Now I know what you're thinking, that's 1 inch thick. Let's go ahead and do something a little thicker. Okay, so that was simple. That was a piece of maple. It wasn't real thick. Well, let's resaw a piece of 3 3/4 inch cherry. Again, 1 horsepower motor. This blade's been used a bit. Well, as you can see, you can get really good results really quite quickly with a decent blade, even in an underpowered saw and an old beat up one. So what I'd like to talk about here for a quick second is resawing. I've seen a lot of different jigs and stuff out there for, dealing with drift and that sort of thing with your bandsaw, but if your bandsaw's tuned right, all you really need is a fence. You don't have to worry too much about drift, so let's talk about how to tune a bandsaw for a hardback blade and resawing. All right, so if you look closely at this, you can't see the back side of my wheel, but it's actually about right there. So my wheel, I have this blade sitting just forward of center of the blade. I don't want to have the center of the blade on the center of the wheel. I actually want it a little bit forward. I want to support the back of the blade as much as possible, which is kind of the opposite from a flexback blade. And when you're tightening down a hardback blade, you want to over tighten it. If your saw says, a 1/2 inch blade, tighten it down to this point, tighten it down a few extra turns. Now on this bandsaw, I just have guide blocks, I don't have wheels. And whenever I have a hardback blade in here, I'm gonna push them right in so they actually touch the blade. There's no play back and forth. And the same with the back. I install the blade, I tighten down as much as I want to tighten, and then I'll bring the bearing into the back just so it touches while the blade is running. So there's no play there. It is a very stiff, solid fit. I do the same on the bottom. That's the best way I found to install a hardback blade. Now there's lots of different opinions out there, but I've been doing this for 25 years and it's always performed flawless for me, and I've never had any issues with resawing. Now with the right quality blade like this hardback blade, you can do resawing free-handed and get really accurate results just with a little bit of practice and taking your time, as I demonstrated earlier. So that's a hardback blade. Now you can cut contours with the hardback blade. I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of that, and then we're going to flip over to the flexback blades. All right, so now I'm installing a 1/4" flex back blade, and this is a whole different animal. I want the teeth of that blade to be on the center of the wheel. So I don't want them forward, I don't want them back, I want the teeth to be right on the center of the wheel. That's very important when you're using a flex back blade. It'll give you a lot more capacity for making sharp turns. All right, so on the flex back blade, I want a little bit of movement in between here, not a lot, just a smidge, enough to squeeze maybe a sheet of paper folded in half. And then again, I'm gonna bring my bearing, my back bearing, all the way up to the blade so it touches it, pushes it forward, and then I'm just gonna turn it off a little bit. And again, just so there's about a sheet of paper distance between the back of the blade and the bearing itself. And that is where I want it. And I've done the same thing down on the bottom as well. So there you go. There's the difference between a hardback and a flex back blade and what their intended uses are. Like I said before, you can do contours with a hardback blade. Ripping with a flex back blade is possible. It's just not very much fun, and you have to create all kinds of jigs and systems to keep your line straight. So that's the intended use for those particular types of blades. And the reason I did it on my old beat up $75 Rockwell is to show you that just the right bandsaw blade can make a big difference on a bandsaw. You know, if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's and you buy a bandsaw, or you Craftsman and you buy a bandsaw, or pretty much anywhere and buy a bandsaw, it's gonna come with a so-so blade in it. They're not high quality blades. And I've seen a lot of guys who've never used bandsaws before get that saw, use the blade that's in the saw, and get frustrated because they can't follow a line, or they can't cut a straight line, or they can't get the contours right. And that's got a lot to do with the blade that's in the bandsaw. Now you can go to Lowe's or Home Depot and buy bandsaw blades as well for a 14" bandsaw, but they're junk. You're gonna get really nasty cuts. You're gonna have a hard time with keeping consistency, following lines or contours. So if you're gonna buy a bandsaw, consider getting a high quality blade. Now I'm going to take this opportunity to shamelessly plug my Toolmasters Association. I like sawblade.com's bandsaw blades so much that I asked them to join the Toolmasters Association, and they've offered everybody 15% off across the board. Their their circular saw blades, their table saw blades, their bandsaw blades, and their equipment, their heavy duty saws, their metal cutting saws, and other stuff. So I want to say thank you to sawblade.com for that. And I would definitely consider buying your bandsaw blades from there, and here's why. Now you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and you can buy a bandsaw blade for a 14" bandsaw for right around, I think it's between $10 and $12. But it's junk. I mean, they're really junk, and you're gonna get really bad results. You're gonna have frustrations from not being able to follow lines or contours very well, and you're gonna have a lot of sanding to do when it's done. Now you can go to sawblade.com and pick up a bandsaw blade for just a couple bucks more than that. Literally just a few bucks more than that. They're high quality, high carbon steel. They're made in Ohio. They're made right here in the US, and you're gonna get much better results even with a bandsaw that's all beat up like mine. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I wanted to share this whole thing with you. I hope it helps. Now there's a lot of different guys who have a lot of different opinions about how bandsaws and blades should be set up and what they should be used for. And all I can do is share my experience with you and what's worked for me over the years. Thanks for watching.